own this for me this is energy democratization, and that's for me this is energy democratization. People like this is radio, and this is literacy in energy. This is people. I don't know how you make it work at the end, but people need to hear stuff like this essentially.
Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Energy Talk podcast. My name is Oluwatobi, and today I'm very excited to present a very special guest today. His name is Oluwatobi Williams Babatunde, but we will call him Tobi for short. Hello, Tobi.
Hi, Bumi.
Yes,
What's up?
thank you for being on the podcast today. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Okay. So, could you just introduce yourself to my audience to let them get a better understanding of who you are and what you do?
Okay, so like briefly, right?
Yeah, briefly.
I would say um, I I do a lot of business intelligence solutions through the use of data analytics and energy analytics, and the whole aim is to not just present information, it's to also extract insights in a way that, I mean, to some people it would be an unprecedented view of their businesses, of their energy. So yeah, I essentially bring data to life for for companies and businesses.
All right.
For sure.
Okay, that's perfect. So for short, so it's fair if we just call you. Let's give you a business title. Let's call you the energy analytics guy. Is that okay for now?
Yeah,
Okay,
that works.
okay. What about your educational background? What did you do at undergraduate level? And I understand you've gone further in your education as well. So could you just break that down for us?
So I mean after my GCSEs, I went to do A levels, a sort of foundation program in England, um, something related to science and engineering. At least those were the subjects I picked. And for some reason, I did electronic and communications engineering. Because
What do you mean for
I don't
some
know.
reason? Do you regret that
I
decision?
mean, it was just I just felt like because of my grades, I could do it, right? And
Yeah.
then I went for it. I didn't sit back and I don't know, just examine myself really. But at that point, I think it was cool. It was an exciting ride. Of course, I love electronics. I, I used to dabble in electronics in school. At some point, it was a hobby. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. It was
Yes, yes, I
sort
do.
of like a hobby. If I think about it in the whole phase of my life now. Um, so I built some things. For instance, I have like a sticking clock that, that that tells you the time in Yoruba anytime
Oh
you
wow.
press the button.
Okay.
Yeah, like tells you Ago Mejiku Isheju Meta or something like that. Any time of the
Yeah.
day,
Uh,
24 hours.
okay. For our audience who are not familiar with the context, Yoruba is language in Nigeria and the western part, and yeah. So just go on of Nigeria.
Okay, yeah. So I enjoyed electronics, and after that, I think I came to Nigeria, did my service, and I stayed at Ife, yeah, Obafemi Awolowo University. So it wasn't the best place to be really, but I mean, I would take it as a way of going through life, seeing different things, going through different things essentially. But at some point, I got into digital marketing. So I was just dabbling into digital marketing. Um, yeah, I pretty much enjoyed it. That's when I realized how much data Google were collecting on us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like how much data and behavioral analysis they can predict. So it was exciting, and I started using Google Analytics, but very briefly. And then for my MSc, I really wanted to do something I like. I wanted to find out more about renewable energy. So um, after my NYSC, it was just the next best thing to do. And I spent some time in Spain. Um, so learning an aspect called grid integration. So essentially, how all these renewable energy sources, biomass, hydro, solar, can be fed into the grid and exist within the grid, feeding the consumers without any, quality lapses or shortage of energy being supplied. It was very exciting. Uh, After that, I spent some time in England just playing on. I think this is where the data aspect really kicked off because I worked on 7 years um, wind energy data. So I was playing around in MATLAB at that time, and it was really good to see how wind speed, wind direction, turbulence intensity, everything varied from whether you're on low ground to mid ground, whether you're in mountainous regions, and how it affected how you plan your solar farm or your wind farm. So it was exciting, and so that's for education. But you probably already know that I started working professionally here as an audit analyst.
Okay.
So it's way
That's
way.
that's actually quite a journey. So on that note, before we go further, I have a question. Did you notice any difference in the kind of effort you put in school when you were just studying something just because, and when you actually found purpose related to what you were studying? When you actually had like a personal drive to want to study, did your grades get better? Did your attention, did your project interaction get better, or was it just around the same? It's just that you cared about it a bit more.
Well, the intention has always been there. I would say maybe the intention to always um how would I put it? Let me put it like this. At Like whilst you're studying in school, it's easy to just um want to pass, right? That's the easiest thing to do.
Yes,
Just
definitely.
get a certificate. But that for me it wasn't like that. It was I really wanted to learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't fuss over getting the best grade. It wasn't about that. It was about what I wanted to learn. Um, I, I something like, for instance, when I was in university, first degree, you know how much effort you need to put into like getting a first class degree, for instance,
Especially in
right?
electrical engineering. Especially in
Especially
electrical
electrical
engineering.
engineering. So how much effort you would need to put into that. So at some point I was just like, nah, man, like, like I like this thing, but I'm sure this is not what I'm destined
Yeah.
to
Okay,
be. You know?
for our listeners, I just want to make it clear that we are not in any way discrediting formal education. We think it's important. We're just going through the
So please
yeah.
go for the best grades ever, but most importantly, just like have that hunger for knowledge. So I knew whatever as long as I'm confident in what I know, that is industry standard, noteworthy, it's useful, and it's practicable, then that's the greatest benefit. So I was, I mean, in Spain, I was just moving around all of Spain. I mean, in my head, I was just thinking, I didn't come here to just study alone, right?
Hmm.
I came here to understand and learn. And as long as I
Definitely.
learned the way I thought I learned, I could move around, go to the south of Spain, go to Ibiza, it was cool. While most of my mates, my 11 colleagues then, or 10 other colleagues, we were 11, very unique. Um, Most of them were like, you know, deep into what they were doing. So most of them at the moment are working as professional, maybe renewable energy engineers somewhere, or yeah. But for me, I think my role is a bit different, and I'm just starting to get that. So now it's not about passing a degree. I think now it's about getting shit done. I mean, excuse my French, getting work done, commit to something and get it done. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay.
So
Okay, so we could say passion kind of led you to where you are now, a passion for wanting to learn more, which perfectly ties into the next discussion point, which is the work you did outside of school. So, where did you start from, and where are you right now in your professional career as far as progression or learning is concerned?
professional career. I mean, well, I did some work whilst in school, but let's just talk about what what's really affected me the most in terms of profession has been working in Nigeria. So I started off working at KPMG. I got a job in Lagos and I just flew and I came over, started working at KPMG as an audit analyst, and it was very challenging, very rewarding. The time I was there, I learned so many things, but I think it just gave me an introduction into what's happening in Nigerian industries, what's the state of data, like what are people using their data for, um, and how are businesses running their businesses with all their peculiarities. How are they running it? Are they running it effectively? Are they making profit? So a lot of audit work has to do with paperwork, verification, and I didn't see myself. Would you say like being excited by getting a professional degree in accounting? So I don't know. I spoke to the partner and I asked him if I could just go to a different unit, like maybe management consulting or um, would you say tech 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 audit? But I think I made up my mind to at that point. Funny thing is, at that point, I actually wanted to quit because I was painting a lot.
You're
uh,
painting. Oh, this is
yeah.
a very unexpected turn of events. So, so
So
passion led you to art as well, I can assume.
it's a hobby, like painting and drawing, and I like that's why I said like thinking about it. Maybe electronics is probably a hobby as well. Um, Painting is a hobby, but maybe passion is a bit different. I'm not sure about all of this, but thinking about it, I would rather, for instance, right now, take a look at how your business is doing in terms of data than would you say try to paint a piece of art. So if yeah, that's how I see it at the moment.
Okay,
So
okay.
after After KPMG, I went to. I thought I was going to quit to do just light work, and it was in energy, and it was a startup that was doing something exciting. That when you look around, you see virtually nobody doing it locally except the big guys that are already known in the industry and who are most likely foreign companies. So
Mm-hmm.
you know, I quit my job. I jumped in, and I started working. Um, I thought it was going to be light. I was also painting. I was painting heavily. I was, I think most of it was just hobby. So I have a lot of paintings at the moment, and I don't sell them. They're just at home.
You're waiting for the grand moment of inspiration to release it into the world.
I, it could be that. It could be. I just, I just do it because I like doing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so during your time with this startup, Smarterize, how do you pronounce that?
Not right.
Smarterize. Okay. That's when you really got into what I would call data visualization, which I guess integrates almost all your interests. For those who don't know what data visualization is, can you explain it or try to explain it? Because this is one of the limitations of a podcast. I can't show them what I'm talking about, but just try to tell them what I'm referring to when I say data visualization.
So simply put, I would say it's a method of effectively displaying data. And by that, I mean ensuring rows and columns, right, are transformed into charts and graphs in the best possible way that the audience can consume. So this could be in form of videos, it could be in form of charting, it could be in form of dashboards, it could be reports, but something visual that people can consume. Some people call it information design, and some people would call it, you know, uh, it is a visual display of quantitative information or quantitative data.
Okay,
Ah,
that
does that
was
simplify it?
yeah. Uh, you see, I can't give you an impossible task, so I guess that's my fault. It's like asking you to describe a painting using only words, which I guess is really not fair. But I will
Uh,
find a way to attach some of the work you've posted on LinkedIn into the show notes of this podcast, so people have a very clear idea of what we're referring to. But moving forward,
okay.
okay, so
Yeah.
what are the tools you use to design? What are the things you use to design such visualizations or reports or dashboards or the like?
Okay. So I began using MATLAB, and they have a really good visualization tool inbuilt. But I feel like those are really just for, well, yeah, visualization as well. You can say that programming and visualizing what's going on. Um, then I use a lot of Excel, Microsoft Excel. It could be basic and it could be very complicated. And today I still use Excel, um, because you can literally achieve some of the greatest, flexibility, and it's tried and tested too. I also work a lot in Python, especially for web scraping. I think, I once I discovered that Google, like Google bot, what we call Google, the search engine, and the idea of Google
Mm-hmm.
was fixed in Python. I'm like, what? So that, that has been exciting for me. Like it's very simple. Like the Google bot literally scans through all pages on the web, millions and millions of websites being created. And it goes through this by probably checking IP addresses, public IP addresses and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And any website, any domain, it just stores all the data. And that's why they have like the biggest cloud servers, biggest data storage in the world. So the moment you type um, house in Lekki or house in New York, you're immediately going to get an answer within what 0.00005 seconds or something. All of this data has already been stored in the servers. It's not like they're starting to search. Anyway, so web scraping, I use Python. And then
Yeah, I think
uh,
I think the nerd part of you kind of came up in that monologue, but we'll let it go for now, and we'll jump right back into it because data design and data management, it's really something that's really become very important, especially now in the world we live in. You've talked about big companies like Google, like Amazon, like Facebook, basically any company that has a sizable market value or has a sizable like audience that they cater to takes very much care about what information that they keep and how they use it to in order to make their businesses more effective. And basically data has become a valuable resource on its own. Just by having it, it makes you have like a huge step of advantage over your competitors, basically. And that is why so many services want to just have you sign up and do stuff. So data, this is now where we are at now. So let's bring it back to where you are and where I'm from, which is Nigeria, in case anybody doesn't know. Um, it's a different community because most local businesses, I would say, don't really what's the right way to do this? They don't usually embrace too much technological innovations in their business practices. Do you think that's fair to say?
that absolutely apt. So uh, it, I don't know. Our people here like to remain stagnant for
That's a bit.
whatever reason.
That's a bit.
To be fair,
Okay,
they
that's a bit
like to be
extreme.
ignorant
Okay.
and play. Like, how do you? They like to be intentionally ignorant. Um, it's one of the reasons why we're so far back. If education were fixed, it means like people wouldn't be illiterate. And illiteracy actually is it's the definition of illiteracy in modern times would resonate with backwardness, ridiculousness, you know, just sabotaging or sabotage. That's what illiteracy literally is. It's just ensuring you don't move forward, and you can't afford to do that in this time. So anyway, businesses don't embrace this because at some point, I think I argue that they don't want to know their inefficiency. People don't like to be told what to do, or they don't like to be told, right, that they're not doing things right.
Oh, because then it has to be somebody's fault, basically. Is that what you're saying?
Of course, it's definitely their fault for not keeping an eye on data, right?
Mm-hmm.
And once, and they don't want to be told that they've been doing a shitty job. so, so why? Why would I invest in data analytics that will tell me everything?
Okay. Okay.
Not, you know,
Mm-hmm.
is it possible to be scared of knowledge? I think it is.
Yeah. Okay. So doesn't that put you in a very cautious position because I don't know if I should jump the gun on it. You've actually stopped working with the startup now, haven't you?
Yeah.
Okay, so now you're starting your own consultancy in the data management businesses in a community where data management isn't fully embraced. So can you just tell us how crazy you are or how blindly hopeful you are
So,
to go about that?
so yeah, like realistically,
Mm-hmm.
I'm, I'm trying to build a business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to be tied down to Nigeria alone.
Okay.
Most of this stuff can be done remotely. So if that could happen, I would appreciate that. But the core of what we do, of my long-term goal in terms of energy democratization and energy analytics and even business intelligence, so to say, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Nigeria is is the first couple of months have been quite difficult. Just I don't know why. I mean, you would appreciate the difficulty in not being able to solve a task, yeah. But then, like, difficulty in just, would you say, breaking through and letting people understand that there's potential in this has been the greatest challenge, so to say. But from my experience as well, I know that once the off taker sees the pilot phase through, like once you can just close your eyes, right,
Mm-hmm.
for 2 3 months, then there will be magic. You
Yeah.
just you just need to let go
Yeah.
and
It's
just trust.
it's kind of
Yeah,
like starting a podcast with no audience, isn't it? Yeah.
it's kind of like starting a podcast with no audience. Exactly that. you know, it. Yeah.
Okay.
So in Nigeria, I'm here for the long term. I mean, many people are taking another view of this. Many of my friends in the US and Canada, it, it, uh, would you say preaching to me to just do the right thing. But by by what I'm really interested in, this is the right thing. So
Yeah.
there's one thing I learned from Ray Kroc, the guy who is credited with being the owner of McDonald's. So like talent, talent is everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
But nothing beats consistency. Like Ray Kroc essentially just found his way into McDonald's. His name isn't McDonald's. The McDonald's brothers started it, but I think he just had a bigger vision for the stuff, and he made it work. And he wasn't. He essentially accomplished that through consistency. Nobody was interested in fast food business, like, but it's everywhere. It's prevalent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same with data in Nigeria. I think with consistency and some good backing, you just need a few people really. It's going to come to light. And the people that have been um, stealing funds, so to say, they're
Yeah.
going to be very.
Okay. I'm just going to pivot us away from politics because that would turn into a completely
Oh,
different conversation. Uh, so let's talk more about data analytics. Let's talk specifically about energy analytics in general. First, let's have a world view of the energy mix of the world today. So far we have a pretty decent variety of options when it comes to energy. Most prevalent, of course, is still fossil fuel based fuels, which is coal, oil, and gas. And basically, that has been the staple for so many years. But over the last 10 years in particular, especially the last 3 years, renewable energy has become more of it's become more part of the conversation, mostly because of the impending potential disaster of the climate change that we are affecting on the planet, and that has become from a gentle warning by scientists to a pretty loud, banging, urgent alarm going off all the time. So now we
Mhm.
have more investments in energy that's more renewable, like solar, wind, and the rest. Unfortunately, most of the investments don't go to countries in sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia. They usually go into countries that are more developed. So the countries that don't have as much investment usually lag behind in terms of energy implementations and the like. But there is this conversation going around. I think I'll be the first to introduce you to it. So you're welcome, and to my audience as well. In my last interview, I spoke to a man named Andres. He's part of this NGO in Peru, and they do renewable energy developments in rural areas. And basically, he told me about this term called leapfrogging. So what
Okay.
leapfrogging is you go to an environment as a community where they don't have access to energy, for instance. And I'm sure, as you know, Nigeria has lots of communities like that. And even the communities in Nigeria that do have access to energy, they have intermittency issues with power outages and power cuts going on constantly, and it becomes a point where it's not sustainable for you to just depend on the national grid, and people have generators, which is even worse for the environment. But that's just a completely different conversation. So the idea
Yeah.
of leapfrogging is you start them out instead of through the conventional grid of fossil fuels and natural gas. You start them off with cheaper renewable energy solutions, because most of the communities don't have like high energy demands. So simple solutions might work better for them. And this is where energy data analytics kind of like ties in, because since it's a new system, it has to function as efficiently as possible, and that's the key word here: efficiency. Because people,
Yeah.
as soon as renewable energy gets bad press, it kind of like stalls it for a bit. So, in your opinion, from all the things you've read, from all the work you've done, how much of a role does energy analytics actually play in terms of integrating our energy systems, in terms of renewables, and making it more efficient to a place where it becomes an attractive investment opportunity for people who actually have money to put into projects like that?
Okay. Cool. All right. So I really, really believe that energy analytics is the key to effectively deploying, managing, operating, and you know, and keeping a renewable energy grid or any mini grid, in fact, sustainable, usable, and effective. The best way to know something is working is by measuring the quantities of whatever that is. If you don't measure, you can't manage. So before deploying, you have to do some analysis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Energy analytics in that sense would be highly financial related and just overall um, system requirements. Then once you've deployed the system, the renewable energy system, like it's a given that systems over time, they would you say it sort of degrade, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you need to monitor it and be able to fix things that are going on. So if you don't measure using energy analytics, you don't know what's going on. There might be shading of solar panels. There might be that's for solar photovoltaic in this case. There there might be in obviously in UK countries there will be snow and all that, but UK they know all of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they measure both for their wind farms. They can predict energy demand. Like even before I get to that, right? there's such a thing as energy trading, and that is essentially how the stock market operates. The the options market, all these investment markets, so to say. But energy trading is usually, it could be a day trading thing or it could be a short term thing, and it's essentially you communicating with sellers of energy, people that generate power,
Mm-hmm.
and paying for whatever they generate. So there's a bargain, there's a transaction, and some will sell at higher prices, some will be available at different time. It's like that's the game, and that's only made possible through energy analytics. And if you're deploying any device, any energy device, any power generation device, you need to monitor that. Like the benefits of doing that, and not just doing that, but doing it effectively. All right. So some people measure, right?
Mm-hmm.
By measuring, they mean putting or just using default factory grade meters that come with your machine, and those ones are panel meters. So panel meters give you information of whatever is going on right now, but you don't need information on what's going on just right now. You need information on everything that happened whilst you've been operating, so that you can really know what's going on. You know,
Definitely, yes.
information of right now is all right. I just go there and then I can see right now. But what if I want to know what happened 5 hours ago? So this is where energy analytics comes to play. That Yeah, that's really the game. It's
Okay.
pertinent if we're looking forward to a sustainable energy future, especially in Nigeria.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so moving forward, I think this is the perfect time to tie in storytelling and why I think data is important, as you say, to get in the historical context of how something is operating. So the way I got to know about Toby was through LinkedIn. He uploaded this video of, I don't know if he used Excel to design it or some other software, but he had this thing called a dashboard, and he kind of like showed information in a very colorful and flashy manner, something that catches the eye because we have attention spans of birds sometimes. What that
yeah,
dashboard did was to show very clearly a lot of data in a very centralized and precise format where you could see exactly what's going on with like very little effort. And going forward, especially in a country like Nigeria, where, or even other countries as well, where there is less incentive for people to want to invest in energy analytics or the like, these kind of story-driven data visualization approaches is really vital because it tells people exactly what they need to know in a very attractive and historical manner. It kind of like carries you along of a story because I'm sure we've all seen like huge plotted graphs with huge data. It inherently looks boring. That's the downside of data sometimes. Unless
yeah,
you know the intrinsic value behind it, you're going to assume that it's tedious. It's a lot of time and effort. But if you can see it in a way that makes it easy for you to understand, and you understand because you can see clearly the value to your business that's been added, or you see the places where they're not being efficient, and then you can directly implement steps to make that step to make your business more efficient in that manner. And these things kind of like have this tumble effect, as Toby said. It kind of like goes because once you see, okay, this is a problem, especially in energy systems, especially in countries like Nigeria and countries that have the kind of problems that we have. Because unless we can address things on a very transparent and very easy to see format, it'll be very difficult for us to improve. Because how can we improve when we don't know what's wrong, and that has been the problem for a long time in countries like Nigeria that suffer from
Yeah.
power intermittency issues. And the disadvantage to this is, as the world continues to advance and innovations come up, because innovations will never stop. I read this report by the IEA, the International Energy Agency, a few weeks ago, and it just gave like an overview of the next few years up to 2030, and basically it says that if the world implements policies that takes us towards a cleaner, more energy efficient future, it says
Mm-hmm.
that about 650 million people in Africa would be without energy, and that is about 50% of the entire population of Africa. So the reality that we have now, it's either we embrace innovations, technologies, and efficient processes, or we get left further behind than we are already, because developing countries, there's more of a gap between countries like Nigeria, for instance, since it's like our case study for today, and a country like America or Germany or the UK, or countries that have more industrialized systems, and they have more resources to integrate cleaner energy solutions, and they're more open to technologies because they have seen the value it had to their communities. So back to what Tobi has said, the need for data analysis is, right now, it's more important than ever. I think Toby can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but almost every industry right now has a position for someone who does data analytics or data management or something along those lines, especially in companies that have like big data centers and all that. You can correct me if I'm wrong about this, Toby, but I think data management is pretty much growing in demand as the years go by now.
Everywhere. You don't even need big data. You
Exactly.
don't.
Exactly, and hopefully, I hope, because I've seen the value of energy data. There are entire companies that have been formed just about collecting and distributing data around the energy industries. And for those who would want to know about it, there is the International Energy Agency, which does very, very good analytical work. And there is the CSIS. I would link it to the description in the show notes as well. But these are the things that we just need to put into consideration: the role of important data and just the importance that it can have, especially in energy systems. Okay, so for Toby, what if someone
Yep.
hears this and they're wondering, okay, I like what I hear about data management, and I'm a young person, and let's say I'm doing my first degree in something that I'm not so psyched about, and I'm just getting through and trying to get grades enough to make it to the next stage, and I want to get into data management and energy analytics, or just any variation of the data management stream. How would you advise them to first learn more, or just to engage more in the industry, or just as a special interest, basically?
Sorry, one question. Is this for someone who's about to enter the university or, a graduate?
You can take it at any stage, basically. So you can just give a general advice, or you can give it like a specific timelines. It's up to you, really.
Well, I there are going to be a, a few key important things in the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they will revolve around tech, that's the internet, data that is being generated in petabytes and petabytes of petabytes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And energy, because you need something to drive all of this. So I think for for anyone interested in any of these lines, one thing that ties all of them together, even with on the holistic view of it, is still data. So data will be needed for IT, for tech, for internet services. Data will be needed for for anything. And data is generated, you know, visually, is video data. Data is generated in text. Data is generated in music. It yeah, I mean Shazam is AI just going through frequency data, which is the sounds we hear every day. So it, I mean, I would just say be optimistic, but there are a few skills that are essential, and curiosity would be a big part of it. You need to be curious. You need to be interested in an aspect. Pick something, but really want to know about that stuff. And I think you eventually get to the data aspect. And yeah, that, that,
Okay.
that's the easiest advice I could give right now.
Okay, okay. So, what if
Yeah.
I am a business manager, and let's say I have some employees telling me that they assure me that they're doing everything they can, but you have this lingering feeling in your mind that you could do a bit better, but you don't know where exactly the problem is, and how would you give them advice to improve their operational efficiency through data management and through data visualization and everything you just talked about. And by the way, this is an opportunity to plug yourself if you if you're willing to.
So yeah, the best way. I mean, I would say data is like everybody needs to be data literate, like in every organization, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there are some organizations that just need to sit back. For the organizations that already have like data analysts, they can think about upskilling the data analyst, right?
Mm-hmm.
To take some courses outside. But many people are scared. Many people are, they don't, you know, labor laws are not the best in this country. So they don't really invest in training. And for companies like that, then they should focus on their core aptitude, right? They should focus on what they're best at and outsource, right? Outsource to a data analytics firm that would take a look at your data, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it independently give you something long term. So I've spoken to a few people um, lately, and one of them, whom I've been working with personally as a client, has expressed concerns that, I mean, you could train employees, but then tomorrow they're gone, right? Then they go, so they go, they go with all the investment in trainings and all that. And the future is here for outsourcing. That's what Andela's model is built on. That's what a whole lot of, many people's, many tech companies' models are built on. And data no they carry last. So data is not is something that all companies should be thinking about, in a way, outsourcing if they don't want the burden of training and developing, um, and developing their in-house stuff. And I think for for what we do, that's where we plug in
Yeah.
perfectly. Data analytics is just the beginning. At some point, energy analytics is, would you say, is going to be more revolutionary than just data analytics
Definitely.
at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's really good. I will actually be providing the information to your consultancy, and so if people want to reach out to you and ask you more questions about everything we talked about data management, about data visualization, and everything, especially businesses operations in Nigeria, and also for the international audience that we have as well, they would be able to reach out to you. And I just want to thank you for the time you've given for this interview. It's been very insightful, and thank you for being the first guest to use bad words. I have officially my first explicit episode, so, so
I can't remember any bad words
yeah.
being aired tonight.
Yeah, censorship is something else. So I'm sure they'll find something, but either way, it makes it more edgy as an episode. So I really enjoyed having you on, Tobi. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, likewise, going. Thank you for the opportunity, and good luck with the rest of the show.
Uh,
I'm rooting for this. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. This is Future Olu, which is past Olu for everyone listening. But I hope you enjoyed the conversation I had with Tobi. The idea of energy systems and data management, especially in a country like Nigeria, is something that's not unique to Nigeria alone. There are lots of developing countries that are still getting used to having varied sources of energy and moving away from the usual coal and oil and gas. And while we do these, there's always going to be a negative perception of things we're not used to at first. And of course, there's going to be a pushback. But we hope in the future that countries that really need these kind of energy solutions, countries that don't have the population fully immersed into the national grid, and most of the households don't have access to electricity and energy and simple things that they need for basic human living. So I hope in the future that we can have more conversations like this and really educate people who maybe don't know, or maybe change the perception of people who do know but they're not so sure. So once again, I hope you enjoy the episode. Feel free to get back to me and give me your feedback. You can go to the website. The link is in the description of this episode. You can give me a rating on iTunes if you're listening there, or you can just give me a comment anywhere you're listening to the podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and have a wonderful day.